I'm with Jeff Bradshaw, and he has been working on a book in God's image and likeness. You can see the size of this tome. It is absolutely wonderfully gigantic. The thing that astonishes me about it is this is all about our book of Moses in the Purgatory Prize. How many chapters?
6 of the 8 chapters in Moses.
6 of the 8 chapters in Moses. It would take us 20 minutes to read through the book of Moses. The book of Moses is relatively neglected. I mean, most of the scholars have mentioned that anyway. Jeff is the first LDS scholar that I know of who has just seriously taken this bull by the horns and said, let's run with this thing, let's explore the book of Moses, and see what we come up with. And I'm not quite, you've got it 2 ways. Let me just upside down. 1,000 pages. Over 1,000 pages on our book of Moses. He shared the manuscript with me, and I've helped him acquire a source or two, and he has been working on this for how long?
Over 3 years.
3 years, and you produced this thing in 3 years? You're putting us to shame. Anyway, I want to talk to Jeff. I want to ask you, what is what's your overall philosophy on the book of Moses? Why are you willing to put so much time and such an enormous amount of effort? What are you doing with it?
You know, I didn't start out this way. I've actually always loved the book of Genesis, but the book of Moses, I kept getting drawn back to it, back to the early chapters. I really didn't want to tackle it because you have the science going on. You have the stories from around the world about creation, about the origin of man. You have all the doctrinal and temple issues, and it just seemed like a terrible thing to tackle, but I just kept getting drawn towards it. What has been the real discovery for me, though, is the fact that it truly is a temple text in more senses than I'd ever realized. From the beginning vision of Moses, which is an exact prototype of a heavenly ascent motif, to the rest of the text, which follows the temple pattern almost perfectly.
Now, you and I know what a heavenly ascent is. Explain what a heavenly ascent is for the audience. What do you mean when you say a heavenly ascent text?
Heavenly ascent. Of course, we know that Moses, in the book of Moses, chapter 1, Moses stands in the presence of God, and he's shown a vision, which eventually becomes the other chapters of Genesis, the creation and the fall, and so forth. Okay. However, what's interesting is down in the details. And down in the details, there's really an astonishing set of parallels to a set of ancient Jewish and Christian literature where you step by step this pattern of the hero, the prophet, descending to the abyss, in this case the confrontation with Satan, and then through a series of ordinances and revelations to the presence of God. Those details parallel nearly word for word some of the texts like the Apocalypse of Abraham.
No kidding. So you've been comparing the overarching archetypes and themes in the book of Moses to the ancient literatures. Now, we know that's been done with the book of Abraham, but it is feasible, possible, and plausible to do this with the book of Moses also.
Absolutely. What Joseph Smith added there is precisely things that put it right in line with the ancient literature. What he restored to the Bible, really the first chapters of Genesis, is the stuff, I won't claim it was always missing, it was there originally, but it's stuff that shows that as early as 1830, he had a wonderful understanding of the steps and blessings that we would now relate to the temple.
Now that's interesting because the book of Moses was given to him by revelation, if I'm not mistaken, in the same year that he translated the book of Mormon.
That's right.
But the two are not anywhere near the same.
Absolutely.
This is worlds apart, so to speak. That's so you think the book of Moses goes back to a genuine ancient cosmology, or cosmogony, or both?
Certainly there's ancient elements you find in the literature scattered all over the world. In the book, I couldn't stop at just looking at the Jewish and Christian, so we looked at the Mandean, Zoroastrian, Manichaean, Gnostic, Dead Sea Scrolls, Nag Hammadi literature, and really tried to find those elements that were ancient. And believe it or not, those ancient elements are throughout the book of Moses.
So this thing is really broad, even though we have just a sliver in our book of Moses. So Moses is more or less kind of a takeoff point.
That's right.
To help us understand that this ancient religious outlook, that would bring in Enoch also, wouldn't it?
Yes, Enoch, I stopped short of there. The reason why it stops at chapter 6 is I ran out of energy at the end of the life of Adam. I said the Enoch stuff is later. A lot of people have treated that. Obviously, Book of Abraham, a lot of people have treated it. But the life of Adam and Eve in the early chapters of Genesis, especially in the Joseph Smith translation, is really not there. And you find, whereas we normally think of the book of Genesis as being what? About the creation and the fall.
Right.
You find that it's much more about that pivotal point where Adam and Eve make the turn and start heading back, doing the fall in reverse, and head back to the presence of God. Just like in Jack Welch's book, The Sermon on the Mount and the Sermon at the Temple,
yes,
where he shows the Sermon on the Mount has the same temple covenants and the same order one expects with respect to modern temples. One finds, interestingly enough, the stories are arranged in the Book of Moses not only to reflect those positive covenants and positive examples, but also negative ones. For example, not only you start out with obedience and sacrifice in the case of Adam and Eve, but at the end, think about it, just making a long story short, you end with Enoch, what is the culminating law that he keeps? And the example of that covenant is the law of consecration.
And he has his ascent.
And
that is included in our Book of Moses.
Absolutely.
So your entire book takes us up to Enoch, and then it stops.
Yes.
So you could do another book this size easy when you bring in Enoch. Like you say, though, others have been working on that angle, and that's what's going to be so exciting about getting your book, is because most of us just haven't had the scholarly acumen or the energy to deal with this Moses aspect of the temple steps, if you will, of the paradigm that you've discovered and worked on. So, okay, now the real trick question: when are you going to get us the book?
Well,
you've had 3 years, Jeff.
I've been pushing it, believe me, and I guess
it's on its way.
When it comes out, it's on its way.
Good.
We're in the process of negotiating the final details of the printing, and both the publisher Brett Eborn, who I have to commend for his patience in making it happen, and myself are committed to try and getting it out there before the new year starts, and we all do our Gospel Doctrine Old Testament year, get that started.
Wonderful.
So
this will be a wonderful edition for us to read. All righty, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.